That does give you a month to listen to Crazy Frog, and it doesn't get counted.
Then I said something else, like a podcast, and he's like, I know what a podcast is. But I was like,
Patronises poor man. I think I was in the top 0.05% of Maximo Park listeners. What an accolade.
1:30 a.m. I walk a corridor to my room. I think I hear Liam talking in his sleep, but I can't be sure. Welcome to the Mad For It podcast. The boys on the road to Oasis Live in 2025. It's your boys, Tom, Adam, and Josh. Now, let's start with this young man to my right. Recently been to Japan. Is there any of Oasis's footprint over there? What are we seeing?
I'm going to say Oasis is big in Japan.
Oh,
So going out there, that was the last thing. I wasn't going to expect much for Japan. I was like, I'm going to go over there. Oasis, massive in the UK. Of course, it's massive in the UK. It's Oasis. Get there. First day, and there, go to Tower Records. Massive print. That exact image there, printed on the side of the wall of the two lads, the brothers. And I think it had just been announced that they were coming to Asia as well.
right.
Doing South Korea
Of
and
course,
Japan.
yeah.
I go up into that area, massive displays selling all the Oasis stuff. 30th anniversary, definitely, maybe. It was all there. The hype was big. It was like right at the front. I'm like, what the hell is going on? Like, I've come here to get away from this shit. And now I'm just seeing Oasis all there. And that's like, oh, that's cool. Also, one of you guys lets me know there's a museum dedicated to the Definitely Maybe 30th anniversary. And I'm like, all right, I'll go to that. I'll go later in my trip. I'll leave Tokyo when I come back. Thing finishes when I'm away. So that was a waste of time. No point of that. Like,
nothing to report
that would
there.
have been good for the podcast.
That would have been
but-
great, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I guess not. And I get to Osaka, and I'm in this bar. I go to a Family Guy themed bar
Oh, really?
called the Drunken Clam.
Oh, amazing.
It's like literally, I saw it on TikTok.
Actual first moments walking into the Family Guy bar in Osaka.
And like the video of it was a guy going in. It's this awful picture of Peter Griffin, and he went and there's a bloke sleeping in there, and I think a guy doing karaoke. There's two people. Go in there, get a drink. It's run by two like European lads, so that's already a bad sign when you're in Japan and it's a bar run by expats. I'm like, all right, here we go. And there's this Japanese businessman there, and he's just sat at the bar, kind of politely smiling over, all suited and booted. And then I'm like, okay. And I sat there, and then it comes up, the karaoke comes up, and it says, "Live Forever." It doesn't say Oasis. I'm like, that can't be the same thing.
Right.
There's no way that I'm sat in Osaka right now, and this Japanese businessman is going to sing "Live Forever."
Did he hear your accent? Is that why?
No, I don't think so, because I think he put in before we got there.
Oh, right.
Then the bar came, like a bunch of Americans came in, and it started playing, and the drums come in. I'm like, no way. I've got a video for it, and we'll put it in now. Basically, yeah, he was doing it, and I was like so excited by it. I was like, I can't believe this has just happened. Of all the things. And then when he finished, I was like, yeah, like I was loving it. Then when it finished, I was like, oh, that's so cool, man. He's like, oh, wow, thank you. I'm not going to do the accent.
Humble.
And he's like, very humble. And I was like, oh, I do a podcast. And he's like, oh, what? Like podcast? And then I said something else, like a podcast. And he's like, I know what a podcast is. But I was like, oh, okay, all right. I can't
Patronises poor man.
But then I was like, oh, I do a podcast about Oasis back in the UK. And he was like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
I was like, okay.
He came there to sing. He didn't came there.
Is he
Yeah,
subscribing?
he didn't
Like,
hear
what's
it.
going on
Yeah,
here?
yeah.
I mean,
I was
You're
like,
out
I'm
there.
from Manchester. I'm from Manchester. And he's like, okay. I think there was a language barrier. There was a
were
language
you not
barrier.
tempted to do a duet? Like when he's up there, like you could be the Noel to his Liam.
No, so
Yeah.
I was going to go and do another song, and I was trying to work out what to do, but then a song started, and it was that, like, somewhere beyond the sea.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's this American lad doing it, and he could sing really well,
Oh,
and
it's
he had
not
like
the
a
same.
proper crooning voice. Completely deflated the air,
Right.
like the Japanese guy singing it, as you just heard. Is like, oh, there's an edit. Yeah, this is fun.
Right.
Like, yeah, we're all behind him. This crooning American dickhead was like, oh, fuck this. So we just left. It was like,
Oh, you should have put Mr. Brightside on.
Yeah,
You know,
sure.
yeah, I
turn
was
it
going to go up
around.
and do Phil Collins after what
Of
we'd
course
previously
you
been
were.
talking about
Yeah.
him. But yeah, so Oasis, you'll hear as much Oasis in Japan as you would in the UK. Well, that's about it. But I think there's bigger fish to fry, isn't there? We're getting towards the end of the year. And we've got a bit of exciting news, haven't we? Something different for
We've
us.
got something very exciting. Is that we're now on Spotify, which is great to hear. Because now, if you're sick of looking at us, if you're sick of the real truth of the podcast, you can just have us in your ears, and everything will just be exactly how you want it. So that obviously brings us then on Spotify Wrapped, the hottest, most divisive marketing tool of modern days.
Can I start off by saying my problem with Spotify Wrapped
Yes,
is they do it in the first week of December. It's not the whole year.
it's true.
It's only 11/12 of the
But do
year.
you know what that does give you? It gives you a month to listen to Crazy Frog, and it doesn't get counted.
Well, that's it.
And then you can muck around. Have it. It's yours. Just go nuts. You pay £100 a year to listen to Spotify. Just
The best album they earn might not even be out yet.
Well, you say that. There's an album that I started listening to. I haven't listened to much this year, and I started listening to it, and I was like, oh, this might be like an album that I might cram. And it came out on like November 25th.
Yeah.
So to your point,
Yeah.
that the best album of the year might be out.
It's not
but missed
reflective of the
Spotify.
year.
Maybe
Yeah,
next
it's-
year it'll be
yeah.
in the
well,
20.
it's a business year. It's November to November.
It's a financial year.
It's
Yeah.
literally that. Yeah. Well, it's like mine was. A lot of mine seem to skew between like I want to say like February and May. Because you can kind of tell who you listen to and where you dropped off. And it was the same last year. It was never indicative of like who I was listening to in September or whatever.
I think there's a big factor of if there's a gig you're looking forward to going to, that is reflected very well
Yes.
in your Spotify
You will
rap.
see my top 5 very shortly.
Well, another thing to mention is that Spotify Wrapped came out on the same day where it was a 1-year anniversary where they laid 1,500 people off. So the common thought now is that because everyone, we need to discuss this. If you think your Wrapped wasn't as good this year as last year, based on just the vibe and the look of it, which I think it was a real letdown this year. Just the presentation and the information.
I've been seeing that online.
Yeah, it's not good because they used to do like your number one in the country or your number of something of this.
I got
It was
that.
more
they
fun.
do
It was
that.
like
I was in a
around the world.
percentage.
Yeah, it was.
Also,
a bit
I
more...
got a special video message from one of the artists that was in my top 5.
You never.
Say, yeah,
You wanted me
saying thank you.
Did it say hi, Adam? Thank you.
No, it was
You're the-
covering his mouth.
Hi, it's the
Hi,
Who-
Adam. And
Hi,
then
Adam, it's
the
the
rest of
Hoosiers.
do you want to start with me then?
Yeah, go on then.
Should we go there?
Yeah.
Also, can I just say before we start, all the viewers and listeners at home, it'll tell a lot if people don't have Oasis in their top 5. Right. Okay. So I think you are totally right. It is very, 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 very centered on bands I have seen or are going to see.
Yes.
Um,
Are you happy
to
with
find
the
this.
presentation of it and everything?
I don't give a fuck about the
But
presentation.
but I think it's a big factor. I think this it happened at work. It came out about 1 o'clock at work. There was about 10 of us sitting all on a table. Someone said, "Oh, Spotify Wrapped's out." And we all went, "Oh," and we dived in. Everyone went quiet. No one was like, "Oh yeah, I got this." Like, look at this. It was just like, "Oh yeah, that's just stats of what I've listened to this year." Okay, let's get back to work. There was nothing fun about it.
Well,
Mm.
there was
feel like it
the
lost
rap pussy. Was that what the people were saying online? One of
Oh,
the
yeah,
transitions
yeah.
is like a vagina.
Right. Number 5. These are all bands I've either seen this year or number 5 is Oasis, who I'm going to see
yeah,
next
look at
year.
that.
The boys are number 5.
That's
yeah.
it.
Number 4, Bruce.
Nice.
Nice.
Yes.
Because he
Yeah.
plays so many fucking songs, there was a lot of revision had to go on before that. They all sound the same, so I really
No, they
didn't need to
don't.
listen to
They
them. Number 3, my boys, Maximo Park. Obviously.
Nice.
Great new album this year.
And you saw them this year as well.
It's on twice this year.
Nice.
Very good, both times.
And the album was good. The album warranted that. Or was it artist or was it?
That,
it-
this is my top artist.
Oh,
This
okay,
artist.
cool.
Although, of course, they're also my top songs. Number 2, now this is the band which I saw the other week and I got the special message from, Sum 41,
Oh,
who are also very good.
can we share the special message?
Yeah. I'm sure
'Cause
we
that's
can.
bizarre. Like that sounds unreal.
He basically goes, "Oh, hi, I know you're one of our biggest fans. And this year you played a lot of our new song, which I listened to like 5 times. But he was like, when I wrote this song, I didn't even think it'd be for Sum 41. I thought it'd be for somebody else. And then actually I thought he just rambled on for about a minute about his own song.
But didn't they just break up in a way that
It was a farewell tour.
right? So why would you want to keep the retention of the fans to be like, keep listening to us?
Well, that's all they've got now.
Come to the next
That's
tour.
literally all they've got now.
Yeah.
But like
There's no more tours
zero
coming
point zero 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 one p.
Yeah. They're going to be
stream.
back though. They'll be
They'll
back.
be back.
In 2
Yeah,
years.
everyone's be back.
They-
And my number 1, AC/DC.
Yeah,
Akadaka.
look at that.
Of course, Akadaka.
course, TMT.
Absolutely brilliant. Yeah.
Dynamite.
So that was my top 5 artists.
Wow, look at that.
it's very. It's a very specific age of Adam there.
Yeah.
It's all bands that are still going, plus Maximo Park.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is that like? Are Maximo Park not going anymore?
No, they are, but
Oh.
they're not super old. They're not like
No,
Akadaka.
but
Well,
they're
20
definitely
years is
music.
pretty old.
You would have been listening at Maximo Park at the same time you were listening to AC/DC at 14.
Are you trying to say Maximo
saying
Park
that
aren't relevant anymore? Because you're wrong. So the top 5 songs, quite a lot of overlap from the artists, I would say. Oh, the number 5, Dance Yourself Clean by LCD Sound System, who were my highlight of Glastonbury this year, and listened to that a lot afterwards. Next two are both Akadaka, Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap.
Nice.
I love that
Nice.
song.
Great song.
And then Thunderstruck, also
course,
great.
Yeah.
Who do you prefer? Do you prefer Bon Scott or Brian
Brian
Johnson. Well, he's from the northeast, isn't he?
Oh, he's Newcastle, isn't he?
Yeah,
thought
he's
they were
he's a
Australian.
Geordie. Yeah, they are Australian, but he's a Geordie. He was in the band Geordie because he's
Went
a
over my
Geordie.
head. Where's
Yeah.
one of yours then? One of your locals?
I'm not a Geordie. And then number 2 is Favourite Songs by Maximo Park, the lead single off their album. And then number 1, which I'm quite surprised at, but I think it was on my gym playlist for a while, the song Cold Reactor by Everything Everything,
Okay.
which is a good song.
Right.
But I'm quite surprised that's the top. I think it ended up on like a gym playlist loop,
Okay.
and I've ended up listening to that. I think it said like 45 times in the year. But I think that
So-
was like over about a month.
Algorithmically, why isn't the number 1 song your number 1 band? If
Yeah.
you've listened to that song 250 times, that should qualify them to be in your top 5, right?
Yeah, they don't even rank.
So you have to listen to like a swathe of the catalogue for it to really, because obviously you must have gone up and down with AC/DC through the albums through the years and stuff
Yeah,
to
yeah.
qualify. Okay.
So
that's
15,500 minutes listened, and I think I was in the top 0.05% of Maximo Park listeners.
That's good.
What an accolade.
You've got that. Do you have any of the subgenres that they gave you for the month saying that you feel like?
Yes, I do, but I haven't got them saved. But
Okay.
one was sort of like emo, skateboard, punk, something like that.
Yeah,
that was
it's on
like
41.
February, yeah,
Yeah.
and then March, and then April, and so on.
Yeah, they're trying to start something with those. They're trying to get like Brat
Yeah.
Summer kind of equivalent.
Yeah, but we
things.
were talking about it at work. Everyone was sort of doing that at the same time and posting it in the chat, and everyone had the same thing, exactly the same
I
thing.
had that. I did. I started a chat at work about show me
Yeah.
your most random thing, and it was only one guy that had like a really techno-based thing.
Yeah,
And all of us were just the rest of us. There was a lot of Pilates-based stuff in there. And there's a lot, yeah. So very interesting.
you
yeah.
do work at a yoga studio.
Of course I do. Yeah.
Right.
Tom, do you want to go next with your top 5 of the year?
Yeah,
Well,
I mean-
can I say before we move on? Actually,
course
were
you
you
can.
surprised at any of my top
No,
5?
no.
No, I was
I could
probably,
have told you. It.
yeah, I was probably more curious about yours to really see where it was cemented than
Really,
the
the
others.
most obvious
Yeah.
top 5. I'm glad I went first because there was
Right.
no shockers in there.
Can you guess any of mine?
Yours are going to be like some like Brazilian, some like weird, like something that's foreign language. One
Right.
of them at least. Like something like not Jesus in a Mary Chain, Jesus Lizard, something of that kind of like.
Alt J.
Oh yeah, I can't work out names of them. Jimmy Eat World, because
Right.
you saw them in not in Spa. I don't
Not
think
in
you listened to
Nepal. They're too
Interpol.
boring to listen to. On
They're not
There
very
might
well
be an
listened to,
Oasis track in there. Something I've definitely maybe. In there.
So my top 5. So number 5, a band called No Means No.
Hmm.
Canadian band. You know, I have that secret trick of getting into a band and then after 25 years they'll reform and play London about 3 months later.
Yeah.
Literally, this album wasn't available for I think about 29 years. I listened to it on YouTube for about 2 weeks, and then this single album of their like 7-album discography came on Spotify. So there we are. 4th one is Erasmo Carlos. So you're right with the
Yeah,
Brazilian.
okay.
But
course,
to be
of
honest,
course,
this
of
is my
course.
one that's up for contention because I crushed it. Maybe just one of his albums in like March, and I haven't listened to him probably for now like 6 months.
Mm.
So I'm a bit like, where's this data come from? Right, 3rd one is Shellac,
Mm.
because obviously we lost Steve Albini this year. He had an album that dropped, I think it was 2 days before he passed away. Phenomenal album. Really, it's probably my favorite of all the stuff they've done. So I just listened to that nonstop. 2nd one is Jorge Benjor. So obviously
Okay.
the greatest living Brazilian musician
Yeah,
of
did I
all
say
time.
Brazil?
You did.
Literally,
I've got
wow.
and
I
Erasmo.
was joking about
No,
Brazil.
but Erasmo Carlos is Brazilian as well.
Oh,
So-
maybe because you did say you were seeing something with some guy at
Yeah,
work.
yeah. So
Oh,
that
okay.
so that was great. So his stuff, phenomenal work. And then number 1, the band that I got into just before summer, Guided by Voices.
Okay,
Ah,
nice.
well,
A band that bring out about 2 albums, 3 albums a year for about the last 35 years. A band that
Okay.
has 34 hours of music on Spotify. And if you include the singer's projects, side projects, and solo projects, there's 2,500 songs of his on Spotify alone.
And you've
So-
listened to it all.
I love it, mate. I love just getting into something. You got to open the door.
You must have
and-
been in the top 0.05% of all
Oh,
of
I
those
don't know,
artists.
I listened to 29,000 minutes of music.
Wow, it's nearly twice as much. isn't
Yeah.
it?
That was the top 12 of listeners worldwide.
The top 12.
In the
12%
world.
of the world.
Top 12.
Yeah. Well, I listen
Not
to music
12%.
puts you in the top
12%.
12% of music.
Oh, 12%. Yeah.
Well, we're
Yeah, no,
talking
he's not in the
percentages.
top
We're
12.
talking
I was like, what claim to make?
yeah. Right. Top 5 songs in reverse order. It was Hardcore UFOs, Guided by Voices, Smothered in Hugs by Guided by Voices, Echoes Myron by Guided by Voices, As We Go Up, We Go Down by Guided by Voices, and the greatest song of all time this year, Guided by Pricks, Game of Pricks
Game of
by
Pricks.
Guided by Voices. So yeah, pretty. You can tell where my brain has been pretty much most of the year.
That's
So,
it.
That's it.
But that's it. I think yours is a good indicator of like that's how it works. You get into something, you listen to it.
Yep.
Like people who have varied like top 5 songs without the same artist in them. Did you have completely?
I had
top 5?
2 AC/DCs in there.
Yeah.
But I
You have-
caned that playlist for like
Yeah,
about
I
3
caned
months.
those.
You
two
have to
albums.
mix it up. Like
That's all I've listened
you
to.
don't have to mix it up, which I found weird. If you had like, oh, every song I've listened to more, it's like sometimes I just like binge an album and just
Yeah,
listen
that's all I've done. Yeah.
to like all these songs, and it's funny to see what doesn't show up in there after how much I've listened to it, and it's like,
Mm.
well, that didn't make it into it. Like, but why did this do? And like this thing's like, oh, I went to this gig, and I can see that I went to this gig, and I did cram this,
Mm,
and that's ended up in
Yeah.
those top playlist. But then I did listen to other stuff,
We
and then
just
there's
doesn't
stuff
hit.
that I didn't listen to that showed up.
So no Oasis in there.
No Oasis, no. But if you could argue that Guided by Voices are the Oasis of America,
You could
because they're doing
I mean,
the
that's a
Beatles,
terrible argument.
but they're doing the Beatles just as hard as Thingy was.
there.
It's almost more like 200% more Beatles than Oasis.
And
here.
did you get a personalised message? Like mine from Derek Whibley?
No, Rob Pollard did not give me a personalised message, even though I was in the top 12% of the world.
Top
of listeners.
12.
I literally listened to music on the way to work, 8 hours a day at work, on the way home from work for a year, and no personalised message. So I've just got to listen to like Fat Lip, and I'll get a message. Is that what you're saying?
Right, Josh, you got a low bar to beat then after that.
Right, so unfortunately, there's no Guided by Voices in my playlist.
I got enough for both of us, mate.
But it doesn't mean it's any better. So, number 5 in my playlist, Parquet Courts.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh,
which
taking
I
it
was
back.
listening to that album.
Which one?
Is it something Total Football?
Oh, yeah. That's an old one, though.
It is an old. I haven't listened to anything else besides them. I think we saw them at All Points East before Strokes once. We sat on the grass and they were playing.
Oh, God, I can't remember.
Yeah, and I remember being like, okay. But I like the song Free Bird 2 by them. And I think it was last year I was walking around somewhere and I was working away. And I was listening to that album and I was like, oh, yeah, this is cool. And then, like, earlier last year, this year even, just started listening to it again on my way to work. And I was like, oh, I really like this album. Like, I'm really into it.
They're like an interesting band, but clearly not interesting enough for like mainstream
Yeah, they'll
popularity.
play like
Yeah, I can't
Coco
remember.
maybe or something, but
Yeah.
they're not massive. But yeah, I've only listened to that one album by him. Like, it's not a case of like, I'm like, oh, I love Parquet. I was like, oh, why are these in it? I was like, oh, I guess I did like cane that album for a little bit at the beginning of the year.
Do you think Sports Team are a bit of a rip of them?
I've never listened to Sports Team. I've not listened to any other Parquet Courts music, so it's only this small little fraction. But yeah, it's good. So that's in my top 5 for them. Oh, I don't know if I'm in the top. I didn't get a message from him.
Oh,
No.
not a real fan.
Few do.
Number 4, Salt. S-A-U-L-T.
Mm.
I've
Yeah.
never listened to Salt in my life.
Oh.
You're joking.
But my girlfriend has shared my Spotify
Yeah.
and somehow got onto it. Played it once
See, that's why
on
it's
a
weird,
Soul
isn't it?
playlist while she was working. And then it was there. And that's the only way. And it was only one time she did that.
Interesting.
And so
But
I've
what
never
was-
heard.
What date was that? I
I
bet that
don't
was
know. It didn't give me
early
a
to
date.
mid-year.
This is in the
But
top.
from your memory, was that over 6 months ago?
No, I think it's more recently. Like,
Oh, okay.
yeah, I couldn't tell you that at all in the slightest. Like, I've never heard a song. I wouldn't know. I saw somebody on my Instagram, that was their top artist of the year. And I said,
Which album is it? I know
Salt.
one of the albums.
I don't know. It's just the top.
Salt.
This is the artist.
Right.
So I don't know the song. Like, I was like perplexed because at one point my Spotify got co-opted by somebody and it sounded like it was being used as a gym playlist. For
Adam?
like,
that's there should be an option to be like, I'm in the gym.
Yeah,
I'm going to
just-
be listening to like
Yeah.
early noughties, like
yeah.
Eurodance, because it's quick.
yeah.
Run Lola Run.
And then
soundtrack.
and then cut that
Yeah.
off and don't include that.
Yeah.
But
So God Love Salt but I don't know who you are, and I've never listened to you. But you're in my top 4 artists of the year.
He's a bit salty about that.
And then number 3, the OCs.
course.
OCs,
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
like my favourite
yeah.
band,
Favourite
so that
band.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I saw them this year, so I probably did a bit more cramming again,
Bit of
listening to
fresh.
their new
Yeah.
album.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
And then this was a surprise. I didn't think this would happen. I should do. Number 2, Oasis.
Yeah.
Hey.
So we had Oasis on there, and it was like, great. Listen to Definitely Maybe Again,
Mhm.
and all the other stuff, all that good stuff. And I was glad to see the boys up there, and I'm like, great. I'm not a faker.
Yeah.
I've got a
Oh.
podcast about
Proper
Oasis,
fans.
and they're in my top 5. We'll do the Guided by Voices podcast next time they go on tour, and then Tom can lead that. We'll ask him questions. Oh, what else did they do?
Yeah, I could probably tell you, to be honest.
The thing that surprised me a bit about Oasis, though, was actually I basically wouldn't have listened to them until
No,
they reformed.
absolutely
So
right.
that listening is actually a really condensed
Yeah.
period of time, which means I probably have been hammering them since that, you
Yeah.
know, end of August.
Oh, yeah.
reuniting.
Yeah.
It's
Exactly.
3 months worth of listening rather than a year's worth.
Yeah, I bet for a lot of people, it's like I hadn't listened to Oasis on Spotify for probably ever, like before they
Yeah,
reformed.
yeah, same.
And then now it's like, yeah, there it is. I'm surprised Ocean Colour Scene went on there because I was caning them for a bit, and like a lot of Britpop bands.
But again, that would have only been
In the last 3
End of
months.
I guess
August,
I was
September
just caning
onwards.
yeah.
Oasis more than that.
So you're number 1.
Number
Josh,
1,
Josh is number
The
1.
1975.
No way.
Yeah,
Wow.
the 1975
No
who I
way.
saw in February.
Wow.
Coronation Street nepotism.
Yeah, exactly. Who I saw, and I think that their last album they put out was so good. It was wicked. I liked them. I used to hate them. Absolutely hated them.
It's Coldplay for
And
you.
then I
for
started to
you.
get into it, and I'm like, really liked it. Saw them, and
What turned it for you, though?
it
From
was
hate
their
to love.
third album,
Yeah.
and some of the songs in it were on the radio at my old work, and I was
Mm.
like, oh, this is alright. This.
Can we put the Oasis clip of him?
Yes.
He's like, you got to get back together. It's the only thing
Maybe
you should
he
be
did
doing. How are you not getting back together?
What are Oasis doing? Can you imagine being in potentially right now, still the coolest band in the world, and not doing it because you're in a mard with your brother? Do you know what I mean? I can deal with them dressing like they're in their 20s and being in their 50s, but acting like they're in their 20s. They need to grow up. Stop marding. They're like men of the people.
It's like, shut the...
He's an annoying guy, like, but he's like, they do good pop songs that
Which ones? Where would you start? That one,
I would
fucking Sweet Like Chocolate.
no, I hate that first album. Sweet like
Chocolate boy.
I hate that first album. I don't like it in the slightest. But I think the third album,
Denise from Coronation Street.
Denise Walsh, the dad who's in Benidorm,
Tim Healy.
Tim Healy.
Oh.
He's half a shilling. Tim Healy of half a shilling.
So you've got a musical, you know.
Yeah, there's music
family.
in the family. Denise Walsh probably did plays.
Nothing
Like,
blue.
yeah, it's all good.
How many
And-
albums have they got now then?
I think they've got 4 albums, and
Oh,
their
right.
last one was really, really good.
Yeah.
It was really good. Okay, so I might as well go on to the top 5 songs.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay,
Salt.
well, according to this, I was in the top 1% of fans for 1975.
Wow.
I spent
Killing me, boy.
1,132 minutes listening to them.
Wow.
And it puts.
You
it
should have
says-
said someone stole your phone for that.
Oh, mate. No, I was happy to go. I was happy to do it. Listen to it. So basically, the top songs, top 5 songs. Number 5, Part of the Band, live at Madison Square Garden by the 1975. There we go, just there. Number 4, the 1975 by the 1975, live at Madison Square Garden. Number 3,
Rover's Return.
number 3, Consumption, live at Madison Square Garden by the
Oh.
1975.
Drink every time he says 1975.
Number 2, Looking for Somebody, live at Madison Square Garden by the 1975.
What do we got?
And then number 1,
Cheers to you.
If You're Too Shy, Let Me Know, live at Madison Square Garden by the 1975. They were my top 5 songs. And it's because I was caning that live album before the gig
Were you?
and after the gig. Yeah.
You really
I-
listened to that, were you?
I would rather listen to live music of an artist than I would listen to their album. And then that album was like of this tour cycle. So
That's
I was like,
interesting.
okay.
What do you think about that?
You're not wrong, because my favourite AC/DC album is the live album from 1992, which is amazing.
What, the Monsters of Rock one?
No, they're in different places. Not like one concert. It's actually
Okay.
really weird. They're in 3 different places, and they're just sort of like
Just take the best
smushed
takes
together. Yeah,
each
they've
of
obviously
the
recorded the whole
nights.
tour, but that's great. Got all the hits. They sound amazing on
Yeah.
it. I
Yeah,
love
it's
it.
funny because I got the same for No Means No. They've got a live album called Live and Cuddly, and that's from like their 88, 89 tour, and that is the best period of that band. So, yeah, I think live albums
Yeah.
are definitely the way.
It is kind of a shame that all my songs were from the same album and by the 1975.
Well,
Me
mine
too.
were,
It was-
mine were only
I
split across 2
literally-
albums.
Listen to that, and I think I listened to that. I didn't even listen to their new album this year. I only listened to the live album, so I listened to 1,000+ minutes of this new album, of this live album, this year.
That
Oh,
is
it's all the same.
mad.
It's all the same.
said
It's
it,
all
but I
the
didn't-
same album, yeah.
how many minutes total across all music?
Okay, let's see if I
'Cause mine was like 15,500. Yours was
29.
29.
Yeah, so basically I listened to 31,000 minutes or so.
Of the 1975.
It must have been of the 1975.
Wow.
But then there's definitely songs I was listening to and albums I was listening to that haven't featured on there. My Spotify rap even played a Steely Dan song that I've just been absolutely caning, and
Right.
that didn't show up in my top 5 because I hadn't listened to it clearly as much as the 1975. So there's no variation. Like I listened to that new Geordie Greep album a few
Yeah.
times, but yeah, not as much as the 1975. There's songs in there, but they just don't get factored into it. But Parquet Courts did.
Yeah.
And
That-
Salt, who I didn't even listen to.
Can I ask you a question? And this is not meant to be a leading question. Are you embarrassed at the 1975 being top?
Not all, no.
Oh.
I'm proud of those numbers. I'm proud
Top
proud
boy.
of that.
Top 12.
If you're watching Matty Healy, I'd like to go see you again. I hope your new album's just as good. And yeah, I'll keep listening. I like you.
You're a
I'm a
pra-
fan of 1975.
You're a proud Healy soldier.
I am a healer. Healy me with your music.
He's a healer.
I need my healer. Yeah. But yeah, I'm happy with that. I also had podcasts in there.
I'm happy with
Did
that.
you guys have any podcasts in your top?
No, because I do
Only-
not listen to podcasts.
Only the Mad for podcast.
And it's the only one, which is now on Spotify. We should just reiterate again.
Plug.
Like and subscribe as well if you've got this far through the video. That's something we always forget to say.
Yeah.
We need subs, we need love, because we need those stats to feed our
How much does flag
algorithmic
cost?
brains.
Yeah, we got the
Absolute
new flag
Yeah,
fortune.
look
here.
at that. That was,
Absolute fortune.
you know. And
at-
Spotify, how many plays would you have to get to equate to
Also,
20 quid?
also I
15?
realise we're now talking about the flag, which if you listen on Spotify, you won't be able to see.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, it's great
So
we can
that's
say
why you
that
got
now.
that's why you got to listen on Spotify and then jump over to
Jump onto
YouTube to
YouTube,
get
yeah.
those.
Oh, there's too many
Really?
visual gags in here. Maybe you need to go over to YouTube. Oh, we've got your play
That's it.
on Spotify. Now we've got
iTunes.
your view.
all a
iTunes
ruse.
Music. We're actually on Amazon as well.
Are we?
Yeah.
Yeah. Are we on Apple
And
Music?
we're on like Heart FM.
Are we?
Yeah, there's some kind of
oh,
online. playlist.
iHeartRadio.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
Are
So-
we on Apple Music?
We are, but no, we're not because it takes too long. I was too busy to do it the other day.
Yeah.
Okay.
What about
Good to have commitment.
what
Yeah,
was
couldn't be
that
asked.
called? The one that Jay-Z set up? Not Riot.
Tidal.
Tidal. Are we on Tidal?
No, because our
Audio
audio
quality's
quality
not
isn't
enough.
strong enough.
Not
yeah,
good enough.
our literal frequency.
but
and
we
that
could
kind
be on Tidal if we wish.
of- No, we couldn't.
Oh,
no.
f-
It was
well, let's
probably
not
not.
even bother with that. But yeah, listen to us on Spotify. It's-
Watch us on YouTube.
Yeah,
Leave us
watch
a
us
good
on you-
review.
Enjoy
or
us on
thumbs up
Amazon
or
Music.
5
I
stars.
listened on the flight back
Oh,
to
how
our
bad was it?
podcast. I've sat on a
And now
11
you're on
hour
it.
flight
No, how's
listening
it
to
feel?
my own podcast. I also proofed a podcast on a bus, sat next to a random stranger, watching myself on my phone.
I do that on the way
next
to
to a
work.
bloke.
Yeah.
So he
Okay.
must have looked at me and I'm laughing at my things I'm saying myself. But yeah, the podcast sounded good and it works well as an audio format. It's like, I like it. I'm like, this is how I would listen to
When you
our
agree.
podcast.
Wouldn't you agree? It makes a
Oh,
fine audio.
I'm nodding.
format.
Sorry, they won't be able
Yeah,
to see that
yeah,
if they're
you
on the
gotta- you
audio.
gotta-
Yeah,
So I'm-
that's how I'd listen to our podcast. I like listening on Spotify or any media formats, and hopefully you will too when you listen to it on there. You're
Exactly.
driving, you can't look. You've got to keep your eyes on there, eyes on the prize.
But
can't
you want to
watch-
be with the
Yeah,
boys. You want to
listen,
enjoy yourself,
and then pull over to a
Yeah.
safe place and then watch
Watch it.
in a lay-by.
and then get back on the road and listen
exactly,
again.
You're feeling sleepy. You can't go. You can't drive tired.
It's not the right time,
Yeah.
is it?
I
Yeah.
heard a statistic. If you're on your phone while driving, that's like the equivalent of having 4 beers or something. It's your concentration's that. But listening
Just
to
4 beers
but listening
without
to a podcast, it's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
You're
Actually makes you drive better.
energized, you're
Yes, that's-
excited.
yeah.
You'll be driving up to Newcastle, not Newcastle, up to where's
Manchester.
Manchester. You'll be driving up to Cardiff. You'll be listening to our podcast on the way to see Oasis. And
Yeah.
it's gonna be amazing.
Oh, it's already amazing.
It's
There's so
amazing.
much to like about it
You've
already.
got-
I think.
Do you think we've sold it enough?
I don't know.
No, we said it.
Okay, another 10 minutes.
Yeah.
on that.
Yeah. Well, that's it. That's Spotify Wrap. That's Oasis in Japan. Hopefully next year, obviously, when you start listening to us on Spotify, as much as we all do ourselves to get those numbers up, then we'll be in your Spotify Wrap next year. Anyway, that's it for this week. Cheers. Take care. Subscribe. Love all the socials. And see you next time. Cheers. Recently been to Oasis. Recently been to
the
Japan.
Oasis.
Yeah, recently been to Japan. Fuck you. Let's start again. Go.